What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so look, man. This is something that a lot of us have been talking about for the past, really more than 15 years. Alright? This has been an evolution. And it went to a certain point where it was acceptable, but now it's getting to a point where it's out of hand. It's out of hand, and that is the scoring, the way the game is played today. In essence, what we saw yesterday was the All-Star game for the year. I mean, that was a better game than the actual All-Star game, but it was an All-Star game full of tremendous shots and intensity, great offense, just the greatest example of offensive efficiency that is capable in the NBA, but absolutely no damn defense. And it's funny, everybody the Russ haters, I'm seeing them all comment and talking about Russ's defense, but who the hell was playing defense last night? Both teams scored 170 some points, but they're focusing on Russ, man. It's just, like I said, the crabs in the barrel mentality of a lot of people, and the sheep that a lot of people are. But anyway, back to my point. Look, I know that the NBA of the late 90s and early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, is not everybody's cup of tea. I actually preferred that NBA. I liked when the scores were, final score, 75-73, 81-77. I liked those games because you got to see who were the real scorers. You got to see who the guys were, even though they had to work harder for their points, even though their efficiency was lower because of the improved defense and the fact that defenders were able to be more physical because of the rules at the time. But you got to see who were the guys who could really score. Who were the guys that had the arsenal? Who were the guys that were still in this context of basketball, this slower paced game, were still able to score well over 20 points a game, if not approaching 30 points a game. And, that's why it was very few 30-point per game scorers, or close to 30-point per game scorers during this era. Michael Jordan, Kobe, Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady. These guys could do it all. At that time, the three-point shot wasn't as emphasized, but they could do it all. They could take it to the rack. A lot of those guys had a post game. They had a mid-range game. And they could shoot, if need be, from outside and get hot from outside. Plus, it was expected that they at least put effort on the defensive end. That was expected of a superstar at that time. But, a lot of people thought the NBA was boring. The scores were too low. And, the prevailing notion was that to bring in more fans, you had to cater to casuals. So to cater to casuals, that means that, hey, you're going to have to implement some rules to make it easier for players to score. And that coincided with, I think, in the 2004-2005 era, the NBA lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of money, and as a consequence, they made some rule changes that have altered the game for a very long period of time. I mean, they've altered the game for years to come. First, they got rid of hand checking completely. So it took the physicality out of defense. And then over the years, there's been an emphasis on three-point shooting. They implemented more and more rules to speed up the game, more and more rules to hinder defenders, and the freedom of movement rule that was implemented a couple of years ago really made it virtually impossible to defend. And now it's to the point where we've gone from games in 1999 where the final score could be as low as 75-73. I even remember a game where I think the Bulls played the Pacers in the 99 season. I think the final score was 74-55. But now we have games like yesterday where the final score was 176-175, where you can't really defend. And oftentimes when you try to defend, the officials will still call, if you just if you just slightly touch some guys, it's a foul. If they anticipate that you're going to touch certain players, it's a foul. So yeah, it's a totally different game now, and it's hard for me to watch. I know some people enjoy it. I'm a person that likes defense, and it's become nearly impossible for me to enjoy the NBA today. It's impossible. I mean, yesterday, when Kawhi Leonard scored 40, when he scored his 40th point, which was before Malik Monk scored his 40th point and before De'Aaron Fox scored his 40th point, the NBA set a record this season for most 40-point games ever in a season, even more than the 1961-62 season. So the rules, and think about it, it's about 20-something games left in the season. There's 20-something games left in the season, and we already have a record for most 40-point games in a season. So it's just hard for me to watch this shit, man. This is why I get so upset and bothered when they compare, players today to players from 25 years ago when the rules were so different. We didn't have 4 players averaging over 10 assists a game. We didn't have 6 or 7 guys averaging 30 points. We didn't have this many people scoring 50 points in a season. A record amount of people scoring 40 points in a season. It's insane. It's insane. And I don't get why people love this stuff. This isn't basketball, man. This isn't the basketball that I grew up watching. It's like an exhibition game. That's what it's basically like watching. It's like watching exhibition games when nobody's playing defense. At best, Olay defense, alley-oops, dunks, wide open threes. It's just a mockery, man. Reggie Miller, the best three-point shooter of his era. Reggie Miller oftentimes only had 1-2 seconds at best at times to get a clear look at the basket when he was shooting from outside, because they were able to run guys off the three-point line back then, knock guys off stride, put their elbow in guys, let alone when they were able to hand check. And he still shot 39.5% for his career from outside. I just think that yesterday was an extreme example of this, but I mean, I think I saw a couple of more games where teams scored over 130 points. I mean, I remember thinking in the 90s when a team scored 120 something points, how much I thought that was incredible. But insane, man, insane. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's just ridiculous. But tell me what you guys think.